of the committees that they are in.
Kyle is a Republican in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Mimi and Delegate Plaskett. Glad.
Good morning. I love that area where you're from. That's a great name.
Yes, actually the name is quite controversial, but I'm glad that you like it. So I just have a couple quick comments to the first caller, the veteran gentleman.
Yes.
Is he still listening? He said he would be voting Green Party, I believe.
Yep.
I heard that's what he said. Yes.
And I just wanted to point out to Rep. Plaskett, and for the first comment I have, the Black Caucus of the Green Party was the first caucus of the first part of any party to come out strongly against the vaccine mandates. The black community overall was very hesitant about the vaccine, the COVID jabs, and so I was wondering if he knew that and what Stacey, our Rep. Plaskett, thought about that. That was a pretty intelligent move altogether, and I'm not sure if it was echoed through the Democratic Party or if that desire of the black community was heard. My second comment is, and please don't cut me off, does Representative Plaskett have anything to say? Business Insider has reported on this as recently as, I believe, July of 2023, about meeting with Jeffrey Epstein in 2018 and receiving $30,000 of campaign contribution. And then third, and my last, I would just like to ask Representative Plaskett, is Matt Taibbi a reporter? Thank you very much.
Well, let's take those backwards. Is Matt Taibbi a reporter? Matt Taibbi has been a reporter, but Matt Taibbi has done some reprehensible reporting as well. Let's talk about the time that he was in Russia, spewing some really vitriolic, misogynistic, and talking quite openly about stuff that he was doing to women that worked for him when he was there. People will talk about me saying that I was asking him information about his discussion with Elon Musk. Musk, in his own Twitter, now X, remarks, said that he was not the source for Matt Taibbi. So he validated my request for information about his discussions with Elon Musk because Musk was not, in fact, his source, which he said he was protecting. That was not a truthful statement on his part as well. As for Jeffrey Epstein was a resident of the Virgin Islands. He wanted to make contributions to the Democratic Party. He asked for a contribution. He made contributions to my campaign. I do believe that he was a reprehensible person. And after finding out what he had done, I gave the money that he had contributed to my campaign to nonprofit organizations dealing with supporting women and children in my community. And then as to the first question that you had, which was regarding the COVID information that is going to the Black community. I also sit on the Intelligence Committee. I'm very concerned about misinformation that is it's specifically targeted to Black people to make them hesitant about all vaccines. And we know from research that much of that information is in fact disinformation. And it plays upon the fears that many Black Americans have about the government and government distrust, as well as during the Tuskegee experiments, where Black people were not given diseases. They already had diseases, and they were not given treatment for the diseases so that they could see the progression of the disease, specifically syphilis, in Black people. So those are the responses to my question,
All right.
to those questions.
Delegate Stacey Plaskett.